Angel Reese, the charismatic and talented star of college basketball, has found herself in an unthinkable situation. The news broke like a sudden gust of wind. Reese was caught by the WNBA for using steroids. The basketball world reeled as the headlines flashed across screens, and disbelief rippled through fans and critics alike. Angel Reese, a player known for her grit, her larger-than-life persona on the court, and her ability to back up her trash talk, was suddenly under a cloud of suspicion. The steroid scandal sent shockwaves through the WNBA and ignited debates about integrity, pressure, and what it means to compete at the highest level. Smash that like button and subscribe. Reese's rise to fame was fast and furious, but it wasn't without its bumps. She built her reputation not just on her skills but also on her unshakable confidence, which sometimes bordered on cockiness, and that was part of her charm. She played with swagger, a kind of bravado that wasn't just entertaining but infectious. Fans loved her for it, and opponents, well, they learned quickly not to underestimate her. Reese dominated the boards, blocked shots with authority, and had a knack for getting under the skin of her rivals. She was the type of player who thrived on the energy of the crowd, feeding off both their cheers and their boos, and relishing every second of the attention. But the revelation that she had been using steroids, that hit differently. For someone who had built her brand on being tough, relentless, and, above all, authentic, this accusation was more than just a PR nightmare. It cut to the core of her identity as a player. How could someone so bold, so unapologetically herself, fall into the trap of performance-enhancing drugs? The answer, as always, is more complicated than the headlines make it seem. The pressure to perform at an elite level in professional sports is intense, especially for someone like Reese. Her transition from college to the WNBA was full of expectations. People expected her to bring that same fire, that same dominance, and that same jaw-dropping athleticism to the next level. And when you're under the microscope, like she was, the stakes get higher. Every move, every game, every stat is analyzed. And while Reese had shown flashes of brilliance early in her WNBA career, there were whispers that she wasn't living up to the massive hype. Did she feel the pressure? Absolutely. Did that pressure lead her to seek an edge that crossed the line? The evidence seems to suggest so. Steroids in sports is nothing new, but it's always shocking when it happens to someone you never expected. Reese didn't fit the stereotype of an athlete who needed extra help. Her natural talent was evident from day one. So Wiley knows what goes on behind the scenes of a superstar's life. The grueling practices, the injuries, the mental toll, it's not glamorous. And for someone like Reese, who had been under the spotlight for so long, perhaps it started to feel like too much. Now the WNBA is no stranger to controversies, but this was something different. The league had been making strides in promoting its stars, building the brand and pushing women's basketball into the mainstream sports conversation. Angel Reese was supposed to be one of those stars, someone who could bring more eyeballs to the game, more excitement, and more personality. But now the conversation had shifted, and it wasn't about her game anymore. It was about whether she had cheated her way to the top. The WNBA's stance on steroids is clear and uncompromising. They have strict protocols, random testing, and a zero-tolerance policy. So when Reese was caught, there wasn't much room for excuses. The process of catching an athlete using performance-enhancing drugs is pretty straightforward. There's testing, retesting, and if the results come back positive, there's an investigation. In Reese's case, it seems the evidence was undeniable. She had been using, and now she was going to have to face the consequences. But what does this mean for her future? That's the big question hanging in the air. Reese's career was supposed to be on an upward trajectory, with endorsements, championships, and Hall of Fame talk in her future. Now, all of that is in jeopardy. The WNBA isn't just any league. It's a league that prides itself isn't just a bump in the road. It's a potentially career-altering mistake. However, let's not forget who we're talking about here. Angel Reese is not the type to go down without a fight. Dominance on the court. The scandal, as huge as it is, doesn't erase the fact that Reese is an incredible athlete. It doesn't change the fact that she has the talent to be one of the best. But it does raise questions about whether she'll ever be able to fully recover from this. And let's talk about the impact this could have on the WNBA as a whole. This league has worked hard to gain respect and recognition, and it relies heavily on its star players to do so. When one of its brightest stars is caught using steroids, it's a blow to the league's credibility. Fans want to believe that what they're watching is pure, that the athletes they cheer for are competing on a level playing field. This scandal shakes that belief to its core. There's also the issue of how Reese's fellow players will react. The WNBA is a tight-knit community, and while there's competition, there's also a lot of respect. But steroids? That's a different level. Her teammates, her opponents, even the fans, how they respond will be telling. Will they support her, understanding that the pressure of being a professional athlete can lead to bad decisions? Or will they turn their backs, viewing this as a betrayal of everything the sport stands for? Reese herself has remained relatively quiet since the news broke, which is unusual for someone who has never shied away from the spotlight. She's the type of player who thrives on the drama, who has never been afraid to speak her mind. But in this case, silence might be her best strategy. Until all the facts are out, until the WNBA makes its final ruling, there's not much she can say that will change the narrative. But make no mistake, when Reese does speak, it's going to be explosive. She's never been one to mince words, and if there's one thing we know about her, it's that she's not afraid to defend herself. This is the player who would flex her muscles after a big play, who would talk trash to anyone within earshot, and who wore her confidence like a badge of honor. The real deal got caught using something fake. It's almost too fitting. The jokes practically write themselves. But beyond the jokes, there's a serious conversation to be had about the pressures facing athletes today. Reese isn't the first to fall into this trap, and she certainly won't be the last. The demands of professional sports are brutal, both physically and mentally. The pressure to be the best, to maintain peak performance, to live up to expectations, it's overwhelming. And while that doesn't excuse what she did, it does provide some context. For the WNBA, this is a test of how it handles adversity. The league has come a long way, and it's not about to let one scandal derail its progress. But the way it handles this situation will set a precedent. Will they make an example out of Reese, sending a message that steroids have no place in their league? Or will they offer her a path to redemption, allowing her to learn from her mistake and come back stronger? The unfolding drama surrounding Angel Reese's steroid scandal has captivated not only the basketball community but also casual sports fans, drawn in by the high stakes and the complex layers of the story. The ripple effect from this revelation has already begun to stretch far beyond the WNBA courts, touching on broader issues of ethics in sports, personal responsibility, and the relentless pressure to succeed in a world where athletes are often viewed as invincible. In the days following the announcement, speculation about how Reese got herself into this predicament swirled like wildfire. This is an athlete who had seemed to have it all: youth, talent, and a personality made for the spotlight. Her energy on the court was contagious, and her confidence was magnetic. But beneath that, it's becoming clear that there may have been deeper cracks in her armor. The pressure to perform at an elite level consistently is no joke, and for someone in Reese's position, the margin for error is slim. The demand to constantly improve and remain dominant is a driving force that can push athletes to make decisions they otherwise might avoid. The whispers of performance-enhancing drugs, PEDs, in professional sports are a tale as old as time. But when a beloved figure like Reese is involved, it hits differently. Her case becomes more than a cautionary tale. It turns into a symbol of the high-risk culture that athletes often face. Young players coming up the ranks look at athletes like Angel and see not just a hero, but a blueprint for success. When that blueprint involves shortcuts like steroids, it warps the perception of what it takes to be great. Suddenly, the conversation isn't just about one athlete's mistake. It's about a system that places immense pressure on young stars to do whatever it takes to stay on top. In Reese's case, her meteoric rise came with a certain level of expectation that was almost impossible to meet. She entered the WNBA with a fan base already built, largely due to her flashy play style and strong personality in college basketball. The media was quick to crown her as the next big thing, and endorsement deals followed suit. Reese was on the fast track to superstardom, but that road is riddled with potholes, and steroids proved to be her undoing. The decision to use performance-enhancing drugs isn't usually made in isolation. It's often the result of a combination of factors, including intense physical strain, injury, and the unyielding pressure to maintain a competitive bar so fast. What makes her story more complex is that she wasn't just any athlete. She was someone who prided herself on her authenticity, on being real with her fans and the media. Her persona was tied directly to her ability to be both bold and genuine, which is why this scandal cuts so deeply into her image. The broader implications for women's basketball are difficult to ignore. The WNBA has long fought for its place in the sports world, working tirelessly to gain the respect and recognition it deserves. For years, the narrative surrounding the league was one of struggle, low pay, minimal exposure, and constant comparison to the NBA. But in recent times, things had started to shift. Stars like Angel Reese were helping to redefine what it meant to be a female athlete in today's world. They were commanding attention, securing lucrative endorsement deals, and creating a fan base that didn't just appreciate their skills but also their personalities. Now, with Reese at the center of a steroid scandal, all of that momentum feels like it's at risk. It's a setback for the league, not because it can't recover, but because it complicates the message they've been working so hard to send. The WNBA has been positioning itself as a league that's built on the pure love of the game, where the athletes are driven by passion and a desire to compete at the highest level. This scandal muddies that image. If one of the league's top stars was willing to cheat to get ahead, what does that say about the culture of women's basketball as a whole? Of course, it's unfair to paint the entire league with the same brush, but perception matters. Fans of the WNBA are deeply invested in the integrity of the league, and this scandal threatens to undermine that trust. It's not just about Angel Reese. It's about the example she's setting for younger players, for fans, and for future stars of the league. The WNBA, which already faces an uphill battle in terms of media attention and fan engagement, compared to the NBA, now has to manage the fallout from one of its biggest stars getting caught up in such a high-profile controversy. The media, always hungry for a scandal, has been quick to pounce on every detail of Reese's situation. And as the story develops, so too do the narratives around it. Some have speculated that the pressure of being a black woman in a predominantly white sports culture might have played a role in Reese's decision-making. The scrutiny that black female athletes face is often harsher, their mistakes magnified in ways that feel disproportionate. The question of whether Reese was pushed into a corner by the expectations placed on her due to her race, her gender, and her position in the sports world is one that is being debated in sports circles and beyond. But while the conversations around systemic pressure are valid, they don't erase the fact that Reese made a choice that will impact her career for the foreseeable future. The WNBA's disciplinary measures for athletes caught using steroids are strict, and Reese will likely face a significant suspension, along with potential fines. The damage to her reputation, however, could be far more lasting. Endorsement deals that once seemed like a sure thing are now up in the air. Sponsors, always wary of controversy, might decide that Reese's baggage is too much to carry. The very companies that were eager to partner with her due to her bold, brash personality may now distance themselves, not wanting to be associated with the stigma of steroids. As the WNBA navigates the fallout, the other players in the league will have to confront how they feel about Reese's actions. In a league where camaraderie and mutual respect are prized, this kind of scandal can create rifts that go beyond the basketball court. It's not just a matter of hard to erase. Some players may feel sympathetic, understanding the kind of pressure that can drive someone to take extreme measures. Others may be attention, recognition, and respect. The idea that someone could try to cut corners hits a nerve. Reese's actions could fracture relationships in the locker room, creating tension where there was once unity. On the flip side, there's the very real possibility that Reese could find support from her fellow athletes. After all, she's far from the first athlete to make a mistake, and she certainly won't be the last. There's a human element to all of this that's hard to ignore. Athletes, at the end of the day, are people too. They make bad choices, they feel the pressure of their careers, and sometimes they crack under that pressure. There might be players who see this as an opportunity to rally around Reese, to help her pick up the pieces and find a way forward. What's clear is that Reese's road to redemption, if it's even possible, won't be easy. There's no quick fix for a scandal like this. She'll have to put in the work to regain the trust of her teammates, her fans, and the league itself. That might mean taking a long, hard look at why she made the decisions she did and being brutally honest with herself about what went wrong. It could also mean taking a break from the spotlight, allowing the dust to settle before making her comeback. For now, though, Reese's focus will likely be on dealing with the immediate consequences. The suspension, the inevitable media firestorm, and the fallout with her sponsors will all demand her attention. She'll also have to reckon with the personal toll this scandal will take on her mental health. Athletes, especially ones as high-profile as Reese, aren't immune to the emotional and psychological impact of these kinds of situations. The stress, the backlash from fans, and the uncertainty about her future are all things she'll have to grapple with in the coming months. There's a certain irony in all of this. Reese, the player who thrived on drama and attention, now finds herself at the center of a scandal that's bigger than anything she's ever experienced. She built her brand on being unapologetically herself, on embracing the spotlight and letting her personality shine. Now that very spotlight is shining on her in a way she probably never anticipated, and the attention isn't the kind she's used to. It's not about her game, her trash talk, or her boldness. It's about a mistake that could define her career. However, the road ahead is going to demand more than just the swagger and determination she's shown on the court. Now she's facing the greatest test of her career, not in a game, but in the court of public opinion. The strength she'll need to navigate this storm is different from the physical toughness she's known for. Instead, it's going to require vulnerability, humility, and an understanding of the gravity of the situation. Admitting to a mistake, like using performance-enhancing drugs, takes courage in a different form. It's the courage to confront the ugly parts of ambition and desire that often go unchecked in competitive sports. One thing working in Reese's favor is her youth. She's at the beginning of what could still be a long and illustrious career, assuming she's able to take this lesson to heart. Fans, especially in today's fast-moving world, have a short memory when it comes to scandals, provided that the athlete in question shows genuine remorse and commitment to making things right. If Reese can demonstrate that this was a momentary lapse in judgment, driven by the pressure to succeed, she might find a path to redemption. But it's not just about what she says, it's about how she carries herself moving forward. Every action from here on out will be scrutinized, and any misstep could confirm the doubts of her critics. Another factor to consider is how this scandal may prompt a larger discussion about athlete welfare and the pressures they face. The sports industry is notorious for pushing athletes to the edge, with relentless schedules, expectations, and a level of scrutiny that's hard for outsiders to comprehend. Reese's steroid use could spark a conversation about how leagues, teams, and support systems can do better in terms of protecting athletes from these kinds of pressures. It's not just about catching those who break the rules, but addressing the root causes that might lead them to do so in the first place. Reese's story is emblematic of the modern athlete's experience, where personal brand and athletic success are often inseparable. The rise of social media has only amplified the pressure to not only perform on the court, but to maintain an image off of it. In a world where image is everything, and success is measured by both wins and likes, the stakes feel impossibly high. For someone like Reese, who thrives on attention in the spotlight, balancing those pressures while staying grounded might have proven to be a significant challenge. What's clear is that this scandal doesn't mark the end for Angel Reese. She's too talented, too charismatic, and too resilient to disappear from the scene entirely. But it does mark a turning point. How she handles the fallout will dictate whether she can rebuild her reputation and continue her rise in the world of basketball, or whether this becomes the defining moment of her career. For now, the basketball world watches and waits, curious to see whether Reese's story will ultimately be one of redemption or regret. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. We thrive on your feedback, so be sure to leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Until next time, keep discovering and stay tuned.